To be able to talk about technology, we first have to talk about its counterpart, nature. We consider nature to be everything in our surrounding material world that exists independent of human activities. While technology is completely dependent on human activities, technology is the human application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes. Although nature and technology are usually perceived as polar opposites, they are actually closely connected. People have always lived very close to nature. Nature is generally seen as harmonious, nurturing and beautiful. The notion that nature is good for you and makes you more connected only started when the Industrial Revolution broke out. Only then, when people started observing nature from a distance, did people's attitude towards nature change. Before this, not all nature was perceived as beautiful. People actually found some parts of nature to be particularly ugly. Mountains, for example, were these enormous ugly obstacles that made it hard for people to travel or live on. It was only since rich people started to climb the mountains as an activity that mountains were perceived as something intriguing and beautiful. The idea that nature is always good for you doesn't seem to be completely fair. Nature is full of treacherous elements, poisonous plants, dangerous animals, harsh weather conditions. And don't forget about the destructive consequences the weather can have for farmers. With the arrival of the Industrial Revolution, came a general disdain towards technology. Windmills were already seen as an ugly stain on the landscape, which we now usually perceive as something rather beautiful, as an extension of nature itself. When humans are born, they are completely vulnerable. It takes them years to walk and communicate. While newborn sheep or giraffes are able to walk within hours. Humans need technology to survive. Humans aren't equipped for a specific environment. We aren't able to survive in a purely natural environment without technology. Without technology, we are just maladjusted primitive creatures. We need technological tools to stabilize our living conditions, such as farms and housing. And we need language to communicate amongst each other. Helmuth Plessner, a German philosopher, talks about humans having an eccentric positionality, which means that humans are conscious of experiencing ourselves as the center of our world. Unlike animals, who do observe their surroundings, but are unaware of their observation thereof. Animals live in a natural materiality where their choices are based on their instincts. Humans live in a natural artificiality, in which man always considers himself as the center. That's why humans are always shaping themselves in their environment. It is a way to comprehend the world we live in. By creating boundaries, we can accept and try to understand the world. For example, by making paintings and sculptures. Language helps us to understand each other, and makes us able to understand and categorize the world. It gives us the ability to have an opinion, to think and express ourselves. If we think something is beautiful or ugly, if something is good or bad, we are able to talk and think about it. Laws and regulations determine how we deal with our environment, and create its artificial boundaries for how we need to function in society. The ability to self-reflect made us to become the dominators of our planet. We systemized our world to be able to understand it. It helped us to achieve freedom, but it also imprisons us in some ways. We shape the world without fully knowing how it works. But we use technology to achieve a better understanding of the world. As a result of humans shaping their own world through technological, cultural, and political systems, we never have direct unfiltered access to our surrounding world. Man is, and has always been, conditioned. This is what makes humans technological by nature. Bertrand Cockle-Koren, a Dutch philosopher, explains this very well.
Technology hasn't estranged man from their naturalness, since man has always been conditionally estranged. language, technology, and art actually help us understand the unconquerable estrangement we are constantly exposed to. It is helping us articulate and even celebrate this estrangement.
Every significant change, albeit technological or cultural, humans transform themselves with it. The mastering of fire, housing, agriculture, language, writing and computers, all had enormous impact on us. It has radically changed our environment and human nature. These changes have conditioned us. Nowadays, nature is hardly ever untouched. Although it seems like it is, a lot of nature was designed by people. You probably feel very harmonious and connected to nature when you're out for a relaxing stroll in the woods. Forests are often constructed in such a way that it elicits the feeling of solitude. But some forests are actually specifically designed so you don't notice all the other people walking around. Cows grazing in the field seems very natural as well. Animals have been cultivated by humans for centuries, and even the animals themselves can be specifically bred and altered by humans. The cows on this field were bred specifically to be able to walk on this grassy field. Selective breeding made their hoofs bigger, making them able to survive on these fields. We enjoy the animal kingdom in zoos, where animals are flown in from all over the whole world. The nature we perceive as nature could not be counted as real nature anymore. The most natural thing we have on this earth is probably ourselves. In some cases, the real and simulated nature are merging. An interesting example of real and simulated nature merging are the herons found in Artis, the Amsterdam City Zoo. The blue heron is a natural inhabitant of Amsterdam, but they enjoy the man-made nature of the zoo so much that some of them have immigrated there on their own accord, intruding the living spaces of the penguins, sea lions, and flamingos. Sometimes even paying deathly visits to the lions, not a natural predator for herons in the Netherlands. Within the subject of nature, the Netherlands is especially interesting. Most of the parts in the Netherlands that are below sea level are artificial, man-made. Since the late 16th century, large areas of land have been reclaimed from the sea and lakes. No other country is as man-made as the Netherlands. The Flevopolder is actually the largest artificial island in the world. The Dutch are even trying to recreate nature resorts into their prehistoric conditions. Nature and animals are supposed to support themselves without human interference. Every winter, this hands-off approach raises questions to nature lovers. Due to the low amount of natural resources, 24% of the population dies from starvation. A bit too natural for nature lovers. Can we really consider this conscious planning of nature to be natural? When a bird builds a nest, it is nature. When humans build a house, suddenly it's considered culture. So does this mean that only animals can create nature, and people can only create culture? There is, however, hardly any physical nature unaltered by people, except for parts of the ocean floor and space. Rainforests are nature, but parks are not. Foxes are nature. Dogs are not. We intentionally created and designed dogs. Strawberries are natural, bananas are not. Bananas seem perfectly natural, but the type of bananas we eat don't contain any fertile seeds anymore. That is why these bananas have to be cloned, making all bananas genetically the same. Recognizing real nature is quite confusing. Recognizing reality is too. Living in a technological world consisting of photography, television screens, and computer screens, the world is increasingly becoming virtual. The last few decades are seen as the information age. We're surrounded by information on our phones, computer screens, and even on the streets. When humans still lived on the savannah, we were also surrounded by information. The colors of the leaves told us the time of year. The position of the sun told us the time of day. The tracks in the sand led us to our food. But because of the declined relevance of this information, we mostly stopped noticing it. These signs aren't important for us anymore to be able to survive. We can just look at our calendars and watches to know the time and date. If we want food, we can just go to the supermarket where everything is always in season. Technology has replaced the functional use of this nature. We don't have to read this nature anymore. We mostly go into nature to relax, leave our other information behind, that can be quite demanding at times. When we are walking through this nature, we don't even notice all the information it contains anymore. This isn't a commentary about how we lost touch with nature. Not at all, it's just simply that the world has changed. And there is no need for us to be able to read nature in this way anymore. What technology could learn from nature is its ability to blend in with its environment. Negative associations attributed to technology are usually its tendency to be hard to ignore. We could think of ways to make technology more silent, quietly conveying its message to us if we care to read it, and to be out of the way when we don't. Real nature is hardly a part of our lives anymore. We all live in cities that were all built, planned, and designed by humans. Everything is thought out and carefully designed to fit our needs. We put in parks, plant trees. This wouldn't be considered real nature. With technology continually evolving, our technology is simply becoming our next nature.
Allow me to elaborate this with a simple graph. If we put on one axis born and made, and on the other one controlled versus autonomous, then we have now created 4 quadrants, and we can put all kinds of things in there. So in the born controlled area, we see a rainbow tulip, a bonsai tree, a genetically modified banana, or a genetically modified chicken. This is all born nature that's completely controlled by people. However, there's also still a lot of born nature left, which we don't control. Think of viruses, volcanoes, lightning, or the sun. We don't have any control over the sun at all. It's just so much bigger than us. Then on the made side, we can put a car, a telephone, a robo-dog, or a light bulb. However, in this upper area, things become more interesting, because there we see phenomena like traffic jams, digital networks, computer viruses, or the financial system. These are man-made entities that seem to grow beyond our control and develop a certain autonomy of their own. So while we used to think of nature as everything born, this is now shifting to a new notion of nature as everything that grows autonomously beyond our control. And here we see a next nature emerging, a nature caused by people.
The most important thing to take away from this is the technological nature of humans. Humans have always needed technology to be able to survive and understand the world. Thanks to technology, we are able to get a better understanding of the world. Therefore, I think it is short-sighted and wrong to see technology itself as something that can ruin mankind. Technology has made us who we are. Nature and technology aren't mutually exclusive concepts anymore. We don't talk about nature in the literal sense of the word. The literal meaning of nature is everything in our surrounding material world that exists independent of human activities. Nature is not independent of human activities anymore. We are altering and extending nature using technology. Technology itself is also growing closer to nature. Nature has highly efficient systems. Technology looks at nature to imitate and learn from these systems. We adapt them for our needs. To understand how technology is trying to imitate nature, I tried out a tool that generates shapes, similar to how animals are bred and naturally evolve. You start out with a simple shape. You can then choose a couple of variants each step, eventually creating a new shape that has evolved from your previous choices. This is interesting because it is imitating nature in a really small way. I also tried out a technique called John Conway's Game of Life to create patterns. This is a very old technique, invented by the English mathematician John Conway in 1970. The patterns are generated by using the basic human rules of survival, thus creating unique living patterns. I made one of these patterns physical, making it in a way more real than on a screen.